Well, yeah, kind of as Adam talked about, the academy is that um, very robust opportunity of getting involved with the USG and experiencing the combination of faith and sports, which is very connected, as we'll talk more about with our next discussion, which is our member panel. I'm excited that a few of our members within the USG community could join us tonight to be able to share more about their experiences with Uncommon Sports Group, how they got involved, and really the impact it's had on their walks, both professionally and spiritually. So I would love if our members that are here tonight could share their name, present role or school that they're working for, and how long they've been involved with USG. So Alex, you're the first one on my screen, if you don't mind kicking us off.
Wasn't expecting to be first. I'm Alex. I'm currently a student at North Central studying sports management. And my experience with Uncommon started recently. I just went on their Phoenix Impact trip, and I was not expecting the outcome that I got. I was just expecting to kind of go and just like meet people with connections, but the activities that we did throughout the weekend really have gotten me connections that I'm still talking to this day, like daily conversations of just like checking in and like seeing how you're actually doing spiritually and just on the daily basis. And I think it's just super important to be able to have these or this community just to be able to like walk alongside you and be able to like connect in like other events that are coming up and all that stuff.
Awesome. Thank you, Alex. Then Alex Kaiser, you want to go next?
Yeah. So my name is Alex Kaiser. I'm currently an event producer for On Location. Remind me what the third question was.
How long you been involved with USG?
Okay, that's what I thought. But so I started back in January. So it's been almost a full year. I think about this time last year was when I had my first conversation with Mikey. So I've been on 2 impact weekends, one as the student and one as kind of a shepherd, and been involved just kind of having lots of different conversations, getting people into the network from seeing the impact it made in my life in the first year of being full-time in the sport industry, and bringing other people into the fold has been one of the most rewarding parts of USG for me.
Absolutely, brother. Thanks for sharing. And then Luke, you want to go next?
Yeah, so my name is Luke Unverfirth. Right now, I'm a sales associate for the Phoenix Suns, and then I've been involved with USG since 2020.
Thank you, Luke. Zoe, you want to go next?
I'm Zoe. I am currently our business assistant for baseball operations for the Pittsburgh Pirates, and I've been with USG since 2020 as well.
Thank you, Zoe. Rashid?
Yeah, my name is Rashid Flowers. I'm at University of Kentucky, professor of sport management, and I've been connected with USG since 2020, and my sister, Grace, is the one that told me about it.
That's awesome, brother. Mackenzie? If you're there, Mackenzie. Paul, how about you?
What's up, guys? I'm Paul. I'm an account executive for Seminole Boosters down in Florida State. I've been involved with USG since last spring. I think it was around March. I went on Team 30 in Minnesota. I was at the USG retreat over the summer, and then I'll be in Atlanta in a couple weeks.
Awesome, brother. And then lastly, Therese.
Hey, Noah. Hey, everyone. My name is Therese Vanderputten. I currently work for the University of Kansas as the director for facilities and events. And I got involved with Uncommon right before they transitioned from MOM. So it was like during COVID, and a wonderful individual named Nicholas Hunt introduced me to it.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing, Therese. And the first question I'd love to just pass around with you guys is, obviously, you guys work in sports. You've been involved in the industry for some time. What were some of the challenges you guys were facing as Christians in the sport industry prior to your time joining Uncommon Sports Group?
I can go first. For me, it was probably just, I guess, loneliness. That was a big thing, especially like being young in the industry, or maybe still just trying to get your foot in the door, it was really hard to just know who else was out there that was a believer, especially like a lot of the stigma that sports comes with, just like the behaviors and conversations that people think you're supposed to have when in the industry. So I would definitely say that was a big struggle before finding USG.
A couple
Go if
things.
nobody else wants to. You can go, Sheep.
Thanks. Sorry. Couple things. I think one is identity. What do you put your identity and worth in? And especially if you work at a high level, like professional sports or Division I athletics, it's like D1 or go home, baby. But especially with that kind of mindset, it can be tough because you're a lot of pressure to perform. You can easily find your identity and worth in how you perform or what accomplishments you have. But I think when getting involved in the group helped me kind of see that the Christ-centered identity comes first. I think also another challenge is I lost it. I think finding community, kind of like what Zoe said. Is there other people that have the same walk as me in this place? How can I stay encouraged and make connections with that?
I think just to echo what Rashid and Zoe said, sports is kind of a unique industry that you can really get lost in. And me and Alex went to undergrad together and worked a lot together, and we kind of went on our USG path together. And it really happened and started because we felt pretty alone. And, for instance, being at Florida State, anytime I go anywhere, someone talks to me about Florida State athletics, whether it be Thanksgiving, whether it be class or anything. And sports is kind of unique in that you can't really escape it and it can just consume you. So me and Alex, we felt lost, we felt alone because it was just, we worked for this monster of a thing and we are kind of losing our sense of identity, and USG's really prioritized what's really true in our lives and kind of found a community where we can go in and be with people who believe in what we believe in and really support us, because it can be hard in this industry where everybody's kind of cutthroat and really competitive. So it's really transformed a lot for me, and I'm sure for Alex too.
Yeah, I think just carrying off of Paul, something I'm sure a lot of you have done or are starting to do is making those random reach outs to people. And it can be intimidating, but also it starts to feel pointless because you're like, well, why am I even doing this? Like, who am I reaching out to? Why am I reaching out to them? And I think really just what the network has opened my eyes to as I've gotten more into the industry is how small it is and how important those relationships are in how small the community is, because you need people who understand what it's like to work in sports. You can talk to your significant other, your parents, your friends. If they don't work in sports, they're not going to get it. And you need those people across the country. And like when I'm in Atlanta and I see Rusty, who I met in Minnesota, and we spent 3 days together, now it feels like we've been brothers for life. Like just having people in the network more than just having connection for a job later on down the road. But I think USG has really opened my eyes into how do I build a network of support and a network of people to have my back and like guide me through a tough season and in this cutthroat world.
Yeah, I think a challenge before getting involved with USG was just that lack of spiritual network in this industry. And I know as believers, we're called to congregate and meet together. And I can't say before USG that there was really a way that I was doing that. And I think USG is really unique because it really fills a void that I think is like so necessary. Is that, gathering people that are in sports that also have this faith. So a challenge for me was trying to figure out, exactly what that looked like, not only just on kind of my own day to day, but then, now also going forward in a career. So that's kind of my 2 cents.
I would just echo what everyone else is saying, to be quite honest. For me, it was community. I grew up in a pretty strong religious household And so when I really got into sports and as a career, I thought the only way I could really wear my faith on my sleeve if I worked for, a university like Baylor or, some type of religious university or school organization for that matter. And so kind of narrow-minded, and was wanting a community to where I can have like a gateway to talk about your faith without, because it is a little bit of a slippery slope when you're talking about religion and faith in the workplace. And so that was a big challenge for me, wanting to combine, my involvement with faith and interest in sports.
Great thoughts all around. And I'd love to hear just kind of in terms of a follow-up, right? You guys are going through these challenges, you're searching for community, you feel like you're lacking identity. How did you guys hear about Uncommon Sports Group? How did you, become aware of the organization? And then why did you decide to get connected? I feel there's so often a barrier between hearing about us and then actually becoming a part of the community. So I'd love to hear just kind of both of those parts of that question of how did you hear about us? And then how did you decide to jump in and get involved?
I can jump at that because I have kind of a unique way in. My roommate won, at the time, his name's Will Manson. He won a scholarship through USG. So he kind of had prior knowledge. And then the day that the deadline to apply for Team 29 was due, he's like, hey, you're doing this with me. I was like, well, I don't have time. And he's like, no, it's fine. You're doing it with me. And so sometimes you need those people in your lives to like not make you, but make you. And I was like, I don't know, man. He goes, here, call this guy Mikey and talk to him. And once I talked to Mikey, I was like, okay, yeah, this is legit. This is probably helpful. And I was kind of making a 180 in my life. I was in my first year of not being in school, and being in sports outside of school was just a tough transition, going from working part-time jobs and schoolwork to 70, 80, 90-hour weeks. And I lost just my identity. And I was committed to making that turnaround. And I had just committed to doing a 3-night-a-week Bible study at church. And the question I kept asking myself was, when's the last time I regretted dedicating more time to Jesus and dedicating more time to learning about what it means to follow him? And so I haven't come up with an answer for that yet. There's never been a time where I regret it. So I made that decision of, hey, like if I'm going to overwhelm myself, why not overwhelm myself in the word? Because that's going to just give me more peace than it is anything is going to shake me.
I alluded to it earlier, but my sister Grace is the one that told me about it. I don't even know how she found out, but she told me in 2020 about Managers on a Mission. I think is when she was at Arkansas, but she had found out about it, and she said, you got to get plugged into this. And so I just reached out, I think, talked with Seth, and he let me know about it. I was like, wow, this is really cool. It's because I had been involved in sport ministry organizations, but it was specifically focused on athlete or coach. But this was specifically focused on people that actually worked in the industry. So a place for workers that worked in sport to be able to come together and know Christ and develop better community with that. So I was like, this is awesome. And then I found out how things worked with paying for trips and scholarships. And I was like, wow, this is really unique as well. So I got plugged in, and very grateful for my experience thus far.
I can go next. I found out about MOAM or USG when they were MOAM, and they did an impact weekend in Phoenix. And so we got a cool tour of all the sports spots in Phoenix and got to hear from different believers within the organization. And so COVID hit then, and then I got on the phone with Mikey, and he told me all about how they were rebranding the USG. And yeah, and it was just cool being able to hear about other believers in the industry, not feeling alone. And then even just how a lot of them have overcome, what we all just talked about what was missing in our lives before we found USG. So yeah, that's why I got connected and stayed connected.
Yeah, for me, it was also the Phoenix Impact trip that Zoe and I went on, and had heard about MOAM at the time, USG now, just through a peer that had I think seen an ad in a magazine about MOAM, and then so that's kind of how I got plugged in. And then I think the reason why I was super intrigued is I just thought like there really ought to be a community for something like this. So it kind of just made too much sense to not join. So yeah.
Mine was Sarah Morales. She was part of MOAM, and she had told me about it after I had graduated high school. And she was like, "Hey, like you should just look into this and think about it." And I was like, "Yeah, I'll think about it," and kind of just like pushed it to the side because I was like, "Oh, it's super time consuming, and I don't have the time for it." And she'd check in every few months and be like, "Have you joined yet?" And I was like, "No." And so finally back in I think April it was, she like reached out and she's like, "Hey, like I really think it's your time to join." And I was like, "Okay, I'll look into it." And so I finally just like reached out, I talked to Suzanne, and then I was able to be a part of it.
So my experience was I was in Indianapolis for the NCAA Emerging Leader Seminar, and this was a month before COVID, because I remember seeing it in the airport. And after one of the workshops we had, an individual that was sitting at my table, Nicholas Hunt, saw my tattoo, and he was like, "Hey, like, he just came up to me and asked if I was a believer." And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Have you ever heard of Moam?" Because this was right before Moam rebranded to USG. And he was like, "Yeah, you should really look out to it or look into it." And honestly, like I just jumped into it based out of excitement because I didn't know anything like this existed. I had been looking for a community, just like, like I mentioned before, working at secular universities and organizations. Not that it's a negative thing. You just, us as believers, you're kind of just like searching for that community to be rooted in, especially as it relates to your career. Because think about it, we spend a majority of our time in, at work. So yeah, so that's how I got involved and I got connected. And after that, it was, history.
Awesome stories all around, and I appreciate you guys sharing. It's so unique. I think the number one way, we always talk about this as a staff, the number one way people hear about USG is word of mouth. It's the best form of advertisement, as many say. But I do want to clarify, in case some of you were unaware of our past as an organization. MOAM was Managers on a Mission. It was our former brand prior to becoming Uncommon Sports Group. So if that was a confusing topic for you, I just want to clarify that. But I love this next question, and kind of in terms of the Managers on a Mission days. I know some of you, Luke, did not go through the USG Academy. Your time with Uncommon Sports Group was with the old model of mission trips and going through those different events. But for those of you that did go through the USG Academy, I'd love to hear just what was that experience like for you? I know the biggest barrier to people getting involved is the amount of time it takes to go through the academy. It's an 8-week program. It seems like a lot to handle on top of work and school or whatever else is going on in your lives. So we'd love to hear just what that experience was like for those of you that went through the academy of actually going through those 8 weeks.
I'll start it off. I think I was a part of Team One, so I was one of the pilot groups, and one of my best friends, Hunter Snyder, she went through like Team 27 or something, and just hearing about how much it's grown from Team One to Team 27 is amazing. But I guess my experience being one of the first ones is it's great, like just the readings that they have you do. It was a nice like 30 minutes with God every morning or whenever you carved out that time. So it was really nice to just get into that habit, but then, it was also applied in a way of, your work career as well. And so it really showed me that, your faith and work can blend together, and then just going through the book, the different routes that it can. So, yeah.
I'm new next. I really enjoyed it. I never I'd always read the Bible. And I would say I never really particularly studied the Bible, and just having that kind of structured environment, especially like really delving in and being like, okay, I've read it, but what does this mean? And then secondly, the weekly calls was fantastic. And actually, so my group ended in like May. I still do a call with Mikey like every 2 weeks. So I've still taken that mindset and still continued on, just because it's, if you have that great opportunity with somebody who really cares about you, just cares about you unconditionally in a relationship with the Lord, you should take an opportunity with that and keep up with it. So I've continued on even with Mikey now that the academy's over with, trying to keep those habits up.
For me, since I'm local, like in Minneapolis, I was able to meet with Amanda every single week. And I think that right there really just brought us together closer and was able to like, because it's different like being online and doing the online thing, but it's a lot more, you just feel more connected when you're in person. And I feel like being with Amanda in person was really deepening our relationship. And I still go to her like today if there's like issues or like if we want to hang out type thing. So it's like good to have the connections with the staff.
I think too, it helps build those healthy habits. And so like I would say, depending on who you are, going through purpose driven life and reading the Bible, whatnot, might take you an hour in a day. And if you're spending an hour in the Word and with God, then you're on the right track. So it's more, I think when you think of adding things into your schedule, like, oh, that's kind of a commitment, but that's kind of a commitment you try to be making. And like the Lord doesn't call us to meet with him on Sundays and then say, see you in 7 days. And the USG really helped me with building those habits and making sure that I'm getting in the Word. And then like there's a couple other things you do throughout the year, and those are really helpful in building who you are and figuring out, okay, who am I and who do I want to be in this industry? And what kind of impression do I want to make on other people? Like, is going the extra mile something that Jesus just spoke about, or something I want to incorporate into my life? And that's something that USG really trains you on how to do, because everyone's trying to figure out how to be the next GM, but no one's really trying to figure out how to be the next person who cares. And so I think the one thing USG really does well is teach you how to care about the people you're interacting with in the industry, as well as incorporate fundamental habits into your day.
Kind of just to build off of what Alex just said. So we're in the middle of reading a book called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry with some of the girls in Uncommon. And you mentioned the word habit. The book that we're reading uses the term spiritual disciplines. And I really like that term because I feel like that's really what this academy immerses you in. The words I was thinking of was, it was intense. It was challenging, but it was also very spiritually enlightening, because kind of like Paul mentioned, like, I've read the Bible, I know some scripture, but did I study it? Do I know, who wrote this book? What setting was it in? When did it take place? I think that this academy really challenged me to dissect what I was reading and apply it to our daily challenges that we face in the sport industry. So that's kind of what I took away from it. But, we work in an industry where we're grinding day in and day out. We're spending 8 to 12 hours a day at work. And we got to remember what really is number one in our lives. Is it work, or is it the Lord? Is it quiet time? So I think that this academy also helps challenge you in that, and reminding yourself what's important.
Appreciate you guys' thought there. And I think what's really awesome about the academy experience is kind of, as Adam alluded to earlier, it really just helps understand, or helps anybody that goes through to understand the connection between faith and sport. And at the beginning of the panel, you guys all shared the challenges you faced prior to your time with Uncommon Sports Group, and those things that were really just difficult to navigate as a Christian in the sport industry. So I'd like to bring it full circle with this question. How did the academy experience, and I just say maybe your experience with Uncommon Sports Group as a whole, help you grow through some of those challenges you mentioned earlier on in the panel?
I can go. For me, it was pretty neat because I did my job mostly revolves around football season. So I had my first year really working football. I did USG, and now I have my second year working football. And Alex can attest to it. After last football season, we felt exhausted. I mean, just physically, emotionally, spiritually exhausted. It just, we felt awful, wondering whether or not this is what we're going to do with our lives, whether or not this is where we're supposed to be with our lives. And now being with USG, going from Florida State is the priority to God is the priority. God is the mission. That's what we're doing here. I don't feel exhausted anymore. I wake up every day excited to live life, excited to share the gospel. And, the job is still the job and it's still hard, but the feeling I felt last year once football season ended, I have not felt once this entire year. And it's because of USG. It's because it taught me how to study the Bible, how to be in God's word, how to develop that relationship that changed the way that I think about almost all the interactions I have throughout the day. So just, it's a complete 180 from where I was last year.
Yeah, the identity focus has been shifted from the work to Christ, and then when that's first, how you work changes. Like Paul said, you work hard and you do your best job and you care for people because your identity in Christ is first, and thus that influences how you work. So then you still do a good job. You work excellently because you want to please the Lord and honor the Lord first and foremost. And in terms of relationships and network, I mean, it's shown me the importance of networking and the importance of being connected in a group and a group of people that care about each other and genuinely want to help. I've had, this came full circle and being connected, and now being a teacher. I've had guest speakers come into my class, and quite a bit of them have been from USG, and I'm sure that'll continue. So people on here, be on the lookout. You might get recruited to talk to some UK students, but the importance of the network and community, of having people who really care about their jobs and do great jobs and are involved in some really great things, but can share what they're doing. And then some of them have opportunities to have like God winks. That's what Mikey calls them. But when they're sharing about the work that they're doing, they say, oh, this is something that God has brought me through, or that, I'm so grateful for the opportunity I have because God like brought me here and he was faithful. And then, so the students see that, they experience that. And so that's been really cool to see this network go to work.
So USG has like brought me a lot of community, but it also, I found out after I got involved that there were actually already other individuals at Kansas that were part of Managers on a Mission, but USG now. So like Larry Hare is our head equipment manager, and he's pretty big advocate for this organization. And then after that, the dominoes just really started falling. I mean, I could name 5 to 10 people just off the top of my head that work at the University of Kansas and are strong believers. And, it's nice to have that internal community that I was just easily connected just by, being a part of this organization. And that's great because, being in as Paul can attest to, and some of the others on this call as well, being a Power 5, it's not a small department. You're working with a department of 250 people. So you don't really know everyone on a first name basis, or you talk to them, but that gives you a community outside of your main office to kind of grow and lean on when maybe the department as a whole is going through something. So that's been pretty interesting to kind of work through.
Yeah, I think once I become a member with USG, it definitely addressed, me trying to have more of a community in this industry, and it's also been something cool to invite others along with. I have a coworker I sit next to every day, and I know he's either just finishing up his academy or he's done by now, and so it's cool. Just I know whatever team or organization I end up with, can I kind of keep growing that family. And it's also neat whenever there is an impact weekend that's in town. So like recently the Phoenix one, it was cool to meet everyone and see everyone on that trip. So just kind of knowing wherever you end up that you've got USG and a lot of people that you can connect with. So definitely a big network of people that's really cool to have in your corner.
And piggybacking off that, if there's someone that would benefit from this and you haven't gone through the program yet, tag them. And by tag them, I mean like literally go up next time you see and be like, hey, here's this thing that I really want to do. Here's what it's all about. Here's someone who can verify that I'm not crazy. Do it with me. Because having my roommate to do it at the same time was really cool. It allowed us to have conversations in person that, if I was just going about my day doing the program, I might not have had conversations like that. And I might not have had those extra, we'll go on with the God winks, like if you don't have that, if you don't have anyone that you can think of, that's fine. Still do the program, but it's a cool way to bring all this full circle about community and network and like habits. There's nothing that can help you build habits better than by bringing in someone to help you do it. Like I look up Ecclesiastes 4:9-12. It's basically two are better than one, for when one falls down, the other can pick them up, and a three-braided cord is not easily broken. And if you read between the lines, the third braid is the Lord. So if you join in community with somebody else and you go before the Lord, you're not going to be broken. So I encourage you to find community by bringing it with you.
Love that point, Alex. And really, kind of as I mentioned earlier, the number one way people find out about this ministry is through the word of mouth. And I think that's the most beautiful way to share it, because you're sharing something that can help someone grow closer to Christ. And there really isn't any better success than that, right? So in a way, you're doing ministry by sharing about this ministry, because God really works in awesome ways, as you can even tell in all the different responses and testimonies so far. It's just really amazing what God can do through a group of people coming together who are like-minded in the same industry. Last question. I know we kind of talked about community a lot already, but it's one of our pillars is finding Christ-centered community, being involved in your local church, but also having like-minded brothers and sisters that you can have around you to encourage you, to keep you accountable, to equip you, to motivate you. And that's both in a professional and spiritual sense, right? So last question for the panel. How has USG's community really benefited your walk with Christ and your walk through the sport industry?
I kind of said it already, but the network, I think the benefit has been a community of like-minded people who are striving for excellence, but are doing it at a high level in various capacities, like Florida State and professional teams and such. But high-level people who are doing great things, but striving to seek Christ. So it's really cool to see that. And then the network of the people like really want to help each other and serve one another and actually meet with each other. I know it could be different in another sense, but it's not just like networking for the sake of, oh, can you do for me? Or maybe if I connect with this person, they could get me a job later. But it's like, no, we generally want to be able to connect with people if we're traveling, and we want to be able to serve one another and help one another in any capacity. So that's been really excellent and great to see. And then just seeing the staff, how much they care to serve and help us grow through various things like prayer call or the scholarships, obviously the academy, the trips, but just all the other services too, and books and doing book studies, and just how much the staff cares to see the growth of the people within the group. And even after you go through an academy or a trip, they're still staying connected and still plug you into this community and invite you in on things and keep you connected and in the loop.
Yeah, to piggyback off of what she said, I think the community is amazing. I mean, going through the program or the academy is one thing, but then I think the staff does an amazing job keeping in touch. I mean, I hear from Drew, I feel like every other week in like the best way possible, just like always keeping in touch. And then, you know, sports can send you on many different moves, whether you like it or not. So it's nice to know that, you know, you can go on the app and look up and see where other members are, if you have any other members in your city. I had a really cool full circle moment with another member that lives here in Pittsburgh. So it's just nice to know that, you know, I have that community of believers. And back to Rashid's point, you also have that network of believers as well. And so I feel like the USG community is also just breaks down or skips that step of making it transactional and just people reaching out to connect and learn about their jobs in sports, because, you know, they're believers first. And, you know, kind of what Alex said earlier, it's just how you can connect with people and how you can get to know that person rather than just finding that next step in your career, but it's also connecting with other believers as well.
Yeah, and to build on that, like at my job in my office, I know for a fact there's one like pretty devout Catholic, and I don't really know if anyone else is a believer, and we have like 60 people in the office. Now I'm sure other people go to church, but I think that's the big thing that we're finding as our generation is like, hey, if you're going to be a Christian, be a Christian. Like, let's put on your sleeve. Christian means little Christ. Like, if you're going to talk about it, be about it. And so I think if no one in your office knows, then how well are you actually carrying on the good name, the good news, and how well are you actually carrying on the name of Jesus? And so I do what I can. I talk about my faith a lot, and there's I mean, people have we have people from all over the country, and there's little snide comments about how, oh no, they wouldn't live together. They grew up in the South in the Bible Belt, and just like stuff like that, where it's all fun, good and games, but I've been told multiple times that I need to keep my conversations a little closer to work and then not stray so far. And that's because I'm talking about my faith, and like, I'll take the slap on the wrist or whatever, because it's worth it. But it wears on me a lot to not have anyone to talk about it with. And so to circle it all the way back, having the community, if you can't have it at work, it's crucial, or else you will fall. if you have no one to support you, you will fall. And so it might let you know, like in some cases, that there's people at your school or your team or your city that believe in Jesus and are wanting to fight the good fight. And that's cool, but it might also just be the actual community and pillar you have to make it by from Sunday to Monday, because sometimes it's just, or Monday to Sunday, because it's just hard.
I think the community aspect is really important, as we kind of talked about, because sports is such a, you know, dog eat dog world that, you know, when you network with people in the industry, you know, you're nice to them and you can make friendships, but a lot of people have angles, and it can be hard to, you know, especially, you know, the more successful you come, who cares for me because of who I am, because of Paul, or because I work for Florida State. And USG is not like that. Like, I'll take Nash, for instance. I had not met Nash. Nash works for Clemson. Nash came over for Tallahassee for the FSU Clemson game where they unfortunately defeated us. But I got to meet Nash, and I just hit him up. I was like, there's a USG guy for Clemson. I've heard about him. I'm going to go meet Nash. And I met Nash, and, you know, we connected. And I know that if I need anything from Nash, whether it be in the industry or at Clemson, Nash is going to shoot me straight. And there's not always people in this industry that are going to do that. And especially with your walk in faith, because, you know, the people you meet in here, they're going to tell you what's good for you as a person and what's good for you as a believer. And we've got enough people now that we've got people, if you look on our map, pretty much everywhere. And they'll shoot you straight on your career, whether or not that's going to be a good place for you. And that's really important, because not a lot of people are going to do that.
Everyone is spitting facts on here. Okay. Yeah, I would agree with everyone. I think that for me, the community, it's grown, like I mentioned before, it's grown at Kansas so much because, you know, I like the Godwink term that we alluded to earlier. But for example, like, you know, I have on my screen, see if I could switch right now. like I have my things on my computer, like basically everything everywhere in my office now, something small here or there, someone looks at it, it's just like, oh, you're a believer. Because again, you know, working at a secular school, Power 5, it's not the first thing you walk into the door, you're like, hi, my name is Teresa and I believe in Jesus. What's your name? You don't say that, right? But now I have people that come into my office day in and day out, and that conversation just starts, right? And then I'm just like, oh, have you heard of USG? And you're building that community of what this organization is all about, right? And I mean, there's people on this call, Mackenzie and I talk literally daily. People from the Tampa trip that I was on, we are still connected, if not daily, weekly. And so like it's built a community not only internally for me at Kansas, but far beyond anything that I ever could have imagined. And you need that. So as it relates to how it's helped get through challenges in the workplace, but build the community in and outside the workplace has been absolutely tremendous. And it's helped me be, you know, a better Christian, wear my faith on my sleeve day in and day out. And I couldn't be more grateful.